Okay, so I just wanted to run through next week. It's something that I want to do with you guys a little bit more to actually make sure you've got a heads up as to what's coming in the future
Yep.
in terms of that week of training, and just go through some of the science behind why we're doing those sessions and maybe a little bit of strategy and stuff for it as well. Do you
Yep.
have yours in front of you there?
Yeah. Yeah. Got
Okay,
it.
cool,
If I look down, that's because I'm looking at it on my phone.
easy. Um, so Monday, part A, the common session. So basically, this is a heavy barbell metcon conditioning sort of session. So obviously some barbell cycling, 3 attempts to find a 10 rep max. So push jerk and squat clean is two separate movements. So starting at 65% of your max here. So that should be tough but doable.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you're,
Yep.
you're basically just going 10 push jerk at 65% and then resting
Yep.
for 3 minutes.
Yep.
10 squat clean, touch and go at 65%,
Yep.
resting for 3 minutes, and then you'll up the weight, set two,
Right.
up the
Yep.
weight for set three. So, I mean, effectively, you're trying to find a 10 rep max. Um,
Yep.
what we're basically doing here is taking away the option to pace or strategize.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Because obviously, if we were doing this as part of a longer conditioning piece, singles are going to be a pretty good idea on the cleans in particular. So
Yep.
yeah, the intent here is really to say, well, no, we're not going to allow that. We're going to force you to push through. So this will go anaerobic very quickly.
Yeah. It was yucky last time because I
Yep,
think I've done it thrusters and power cleans. I
power
think was the
cleans.
last time I did something similar.
Yep.
And I think so. What are you looking for with that? Are we thinking? Would you rather be safe on that third set, or would you rather get to 8 and fail? Like, what are you looking at? Like, or is it just where you get to is where you get to?
I want you to make 3 unbroken sets of 10.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
that being said, I would rather you do 8 and hit failure than do
Yep.
10 and wish you'd done more weight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a big self-awareness piece in this as well, because obviously self-awareness based on previous training you've done
Yeah.
over
Yep.
weeks, months, years, but also the self-awareness of, okay, I've just done the second set. I
Yeah.
just scraped that in. The 10th rep was the fight of my
Yeah.
life. Then it's
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
a pretty small jump from there.
That's right. Yeah. Yep.
Um,
No, that's I think last time. Yeah, that's what I was asking because last time I think I got like 8.5, half a thruster,
mm,
and then I think I only got power cleans. I was pretty cooked for that. I found the thrusters easier than the power clean. Obviously a little bit heavier with the power clean, but
yeah,
yeah, I think I kind of got that 6, 7 rep range, which is still pushing it, but I felt like I kind of got to technical failure on
hmm
the thrusters was more like a strength issue, so it was like I couldn't thruster anymore.
yeah,
But the power cleans, I felt like it was one of those examples where I kind of went to technical failure, and I was like, no, it's
yeah,
not worth me being in such a bad position to continue on here. But I still felt
exactly
those
right.
first 2 rounds
Yeah.
were messy, so it was good.
Look, I mean, it should feel equal parts strength, stamina, and cardiorespiratory endurance. I mean, this
Yeah,
is where those three circles sort of overlap.
yeah,
Um, and as I said, very anaerobic. And then because you do have that rest time, there is some time to recover.
yeah.
Make sure you're
You can
moving
go.
around in that time
Yeah, okay.
because your body is just going to be absolutely flooded with those hydrogen ions. So you're going to be going really
Yep,
acidic. And what happens if they're pulling in the muscles, it'll actually inhibit that process of fast glycolysis, which is what you need to be able to hit then set 2 and 3.
yep. No
Um,
worries.
so just make sure you're using the muscles you've just used in the previous set. So, I mean, jumping on an air bike in
Yep,
between
just
for a couple of
turn over.
minutes is going to be good. Um,
Beautiful.
yeah, so that should be a good one. And again, that's the common session for the week. So you'll be able to compare. And I
Yeah.
will shoot a separate video for that as well in terms of strategy ideas.
Yep. Awesome.
Cool. Part B on the Monday, so a complete relative stamina session here. So
Yep.
pretty standard structure in terms of the Tabata. You'll
Yep.
find this is quite cardiovascular as far as the CRS type sessions go, and that's
Yep.
because we're shunting from push to pull to push to pull.
Yeah.
So you're basically 20-second handstand push up, 10-second rest 4 times, 20-second ring rows, 10-second rest 4 times, etc., and then 3, 2, 1 of each. 20 minutes total there. So
Yep.
again, this is a little more cardiovascular than something where we're going really high reps of each movement.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Still, obviously, very good for that localized muscular stamina, but
Yep.
it will get quite breathy as well, but not so much that will become the limiting factor.
Yep.
So the hope here with the descending rounds is that as you do start to fatigue, there's less to do of each. So my hope would be that you can maintain pretty even reps over the 15 rounds of each. Over the 10 rounds of each.
Yep. Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. It's always a challenge on these ones. I think I've done a few of them before. I always feel like the push-ups are so hard at the end because everything is cooked by the end. So, but trying to keep it consistent is always a good challenge. I think. Well, like I'm improving in almost every time I do the relative stamina thing. So I'm finding I'm able to hold on for a little bit longer.
Good.
But I've done this one for a while. I think I might have this one at the end of this week actually as well. So a simple one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. I like the Tabata as well. It just gives you that little bit of rest, which helps me anyway because gymnastics, obviously, not one of my big strong points. It's getting a lot better though. It's good.
It's sometimes a session like this, you do learn a fair bit about pacing because you do a Tabata type interval for 5 minutes, say, and then you end up beating what your max score ordinarily is for a 5-minute max. So there's definitely a big learning opportunity with this to sort of say, okay, well, maybe I'm not pacing correctly when I'm not forced into a certain pacing strategy. Now, I'm not saying that Tabata is going to be best. In fact, 20 seconds is probably too long to be going unbroken for if we're looking for big overall volume. But some opportunities to learn in there. In terms of your movements, something I want you to be aware of with these, 2 of the movements you can keep, that being the handstand push-ups and the pull-ups. So I would expect they would not deteriorate as much as the middle 2, the ring rows and the push-ups, where you can't keep. So you've said the push-ups get tough towards the end, and that's basically why, because you can't just try and recruit other muscle groups. I'm keen for the ring rows to be the same. So really be strict with those. Try and minimize how much momentum you're using. Really underutilized movement, and something that's definitely obviously going to improve your pull-ups and other pulling-based stuff as well.
Yeah, and we're with just a slight technical point on them. You're really looking for that pull to sternum level and middle of chest, aren't we? When we're doing
on those, I'm looking for you to pull back past your chest, so you're trying to get back past to your rib cage. So a good way to determine the end of the rep, because it's quite hard to set a start and end point for this movement, in particular that end point or that midpoint at the top. If you're doing a chest to bar pull up, your chest either touches the bar or it doesn't. If you're doing a deadlift, you either lock out or you don't. So I'd be keen with this if you basically hold the rings in both hands, standing with the straps loose, so you're not actually lifting any weight, and pull those rings back past your rib cage, and just see how far they can go when you're under just a passive range of motion there. And let's call that the top of your rep.
Oh dear.
Yep.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. So that is probably going to mean that you're going to want quite an upright body position, quite an upright angle on this.
Yeah. I already do.
Yeah, cool. I do as well. And look, I see people doing them. You see people doing this movement as a scaled version of a pull up on social media. I find
underneath.
They're sort of going halfway up. I find these much more difficult than pull ups, particularly with the absence of the kip there.
Yeah, so do people when you make them do them properly.
Yeah, exactly right. So this is not a scale movement by any means. This is a great movement in its own right. So let's really focus on that top point. Look, in 20 seconds, you're not going to be doing more than 10 if these are done well. And I think you're probably more likely as you fatigue to be closer to sort of 8 reps on these if they're done with quality.
Yeah. No, that sounds
cool.
Kind of numbers I hit.
Yeah, good.
Well,
good.
Good.
Should we move on to Tuesday?
Yeah. Let me put my phone. It's gone to sleep on me. Yep.
Okay, so ignore the B and C. That should be A and B there. Obviously, powerlifting session to start this off with. Remind me, do you have access to a trap bar?
No trap bar. So normally we end up just doing kettlebell stuff, I think.
Perfect.
So
that's fine.
So
if you do have access to a trap bar, that allows you to then introduce that band tension as well. this is a great movement. Obviously, a trap bar deadlift as opposed to a straight bar deadlift, there's a little bit more anterior chain activation. So
Yeah.
a little bit less hamstrings, similar lower back and glutes,
Yeah.
more anterior chain, as I said, with the trap bar deadlift. So
Yeah.
it's probably got a better carryover to a lot of athletic type movements, the jumping type movements and things as well. So if I had to choose a dynamic based movement for general athleticism, this is probably pretty much the gold standard, I would say. So on those, make sure you're taking that moment to reset at the bottom. As you say, one kettlebell in each hand, and then really explosive. This is about your landing mechanics as much as it's about your jumping mechanics.
Okay.
So jump, land, straight back, you should already be set, but just pause so you're just trying to burn off or blow off some of that elastic energy, and then go again for that second rep.
Nice. All right. Yeah. They're I find, well, I enjoy doing them.
Yeah.
I had the back issues lately anyway, so I enjoy them because I'm obviously a little bit more upright. It lets me kind of use. It ends up being almost similar to because my deadlift's a little bit more upright now because I've had to adjust my technique a little bit.
Yep.
But no, I really enjoy it, and I find it almost like it makes you aware of both shoulders as well, which I like. We're using the kettlebells, if that makes sense, because you feel if you've set one really well, if that makes sense. So I'm like, oh shit, lefty isn't set properly at all here, and you can really feel it obviously when you're jumping and then getting back down into that tension. You know what I mean? So making sure makes me more aware of my body, which I kind of like. Which is good.
It's an example of turning a disadvantage to your advantage. I mean, we talk about that with injury a lot. How can we take advantage of a back injury and fortify others, the other stuff? And this is a good example of that. It's taking away that artificial stability and forcing you to create that yourself. So that's good.
Yep.
And then obviously part B onto the max effort work. So on 0 minutes, 5 front squats, on 2 minutes, 2 strict press. The front squats, I know we've talked a little bit in your video analyses recently about the ankle movement there.
Yeah.
And that last one I did for you in the last couple of days, I think it was the clean, and you could see how you were dropping really well under that clean.
Yeah.
And then you had to change directions and shoot the hips back instead of down. And you could actually pinpoint that moment, where you got to the end of range for ankle dorsiflexion.
Yeah.
And you had to change position. So I'd really be keen for you on those. Obviously, we're going heavy with them, but very keen for you to focus on trying to drop your hips down between your heels.
Yeah.
All the way to full range rather than just pushing them back.
Yeah. I mean, no, I had a chat. I went and saw Luce yesterday.
Good.
And I showed her that video actually, and we went through a few things. So I've got a few warm-up drills to do to try and encourage my knees forward before I squat. Perfect. In the hope that like an activation, because I can do that. She thinks I actually do have the range, but because I didn't used to, it's more like a motor control.
100%.
So we're playing with it. We're trying to play around with it and have a see. But it's painful in the front of my shins when I'm driving my knees forward in the drills that we're doing. So and I can see like even when I front squat and stuff, it just would make so much of a difference. Like if I could be in a straight plane, like I can feel it when I sink back, and I'm like, because when I fail a front squat, I will never fail it in my legs. It'll always be because my core's coming forward because it has to come forward to adjust for my knees. Like I've never failed a front squat because my legs weren't strong enough to get out. I've only failed because of my core. Yeah, because your position's beautiful, probably.
Well, no, it's not. But it's a combination of all of those things. Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about it, if you're vertical, if you're upright, someone with amazing ankle dorsiflexion, if you're upright and here's the load, you only need to take the load vertically. So 100% of the force of the torque that you're creating is moving from point A to point B, and point B is directly vertically above point A. If you're coming forward, you still have to stand up back here. So not only are you having to create that same vertical displacement, but now there's a horizontal displacement. So you're leaking energy there.
Yeah, correct.
But I mean, that's good news. The fact that you are physically able to get into that position. My suggestion then would be to maybe spend a little bit longer warming up for this. If you could do that, spend a little bit more time warming up to work on that motor control stuff.
Yeah, and that's
teach
the
your
game
brain.
plan.
Yeah. I don't mind if you drop the weight a little bit on those front squats, because in terms of effort or investment versus return, if we want to improve your front squat, our biggest return is going to be that motor control, not the cross-sectional area of your muscles or your ability to generate strength.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing. Like when I improve position, like I almost lift more weight straight away anyway. Like it's the same with like I almost PB'd my deadlift the other week, and I haven't even been feeling that strong. Like my back's still tight and stuff. And so I can pull fine. It's more the negative where I need to do more work anyway. But I was very happy that I nearly PB'd, because it was in one of the workouts where you have 10 minutes, then you retest. You do like a heavy workout. Heavy 10 minutes to establish a 1RM, which was like quick anyway. And I was very happy with that, because I was like, because my position and setup's better, and I've got more hamstring range, which is what I've been working on, and pelvis control, that I felt more powerful through the whole movement. I probably could have PB'd if I had a bit longer, but I capped myself out because it's not worth mucking around with for a PB in those sessions. So
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let's make that a little bit of a focus. You'll see I've got some other squat stuff later in the week, which is going to I've put in there to counterbalance you a little bit, to get you feeling a little bit more upright. But I think that's on the Wednesday, so we'll talk about that in a moment. Part B for the Tuesday, a bit of a multimodal style session. Do you have access to a log?
No, I was about to say, I thought it was just a variation of press. No, I have axle bars.
Okay. Yeah, you can maybe do it with that. So basically, do you know what a Viper press is?
No, is it just a press with a log?
Okay,
or where you lean?
No. So you start with the log in your hips.
Oh, okay. So you clean it.
And it's basically, if you think of it as being a combination of the hip extension from a heavy Russian kettlebell swing and the press from a deadlift. So you're basically starting from the hips, obviously over the log, posterior chain loaded. You're then exploding the hips open, so full hip extension, which makes the log start to move upwards, and then you continue it upwards into a strict press.
So one movement.
Into a push press. It's a single movement. So, like I said, it's the love child of a heavy Russian swing hip extension and a press and a push press. And obviously, the more power you generate from the hips, the more you're able to get it overhead. So there are actually very few movements that are purely hip extension and press. Because I mean, you've got movements that are like a hang power clean and jerk, but it's your hang power clean, which is your hip extension, and then that jerk is purely knee extension. So this combines the two. If you're able to get access to one anywhere, that would be good. But otherwise, the closest to this, I would probably go 2 dumbbells and do almost like a hang power clean and jerk, but without the rack position. So I guess it's more similar to a double dumbbell hang snatch.
And
that will but there will be a press out there. So the press out is okay. So it's not like a straight arm dumbbell double arm snatch. So 6 of those, 40% is enough that you should be able to go unbroken. 12 jump lunges. So jump lunges, so tough, really underutilized by a lot of people. I think in terms of just building leg stamina, there's very little that compares to them. So
now,
after you.
With them, what's your kind of what would be your golden standard? Because the problem is, whenever I program them, I see them bastardized. Like, just drive through your leg just enough so you can swap legs without kind of getting that leg to extension, if that makes any sense, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'm looking for extension of the front knee. So if you've got your left foot forward, you then jump, the front knee extends as the feet switch. And I'm not concerned about any sort of height, as long as you're creating enough height that you're able to switch your feet to the contralateral to the other side for the next rep. I'm okay with that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, but as you say, I mean, tough movement, easy to do them wrong. but
Yeah.
done right, very effective. So the real question with this, because we're taking out a lot of the anterior chain in the Viper press, as I mentioned, is
Yep.
very posterior chain explosive and pressing.
Yep.
My hope will be that there's not too much overlap in terms of muscle recruitment patterns, because it's going to be your quads that blow up at the time in those jump lunges, but then 2 or 3 days later, it's going to be the glutes that are sore.
Yeah. I always feel like more quad dominant, exactly like you say, quad dominant when I do it,
Yep.
and then DOMs generally glutes. So.
And that's what we expect. So hopefully, because there's very little overlap, it's really throwing down the gauntlet here to say, okay, on that Viper press or on the dumbbell variant that we talked about, because we're resting that anterior chain, sort of, or at least we're not further fatiguing it. The question is then, well, is it possible to get these 12 jump lunges unbroken each set?
Yeah, 12 kind of, you can probably trick yourself into doing them maybe without, it's a good number. If it was 20, I'd be like, sets of 10, Dan, that's
exactly
the answer.
right.
But 12.
Exactly right. And that's how this has been designed. It's there to force you to question, do we go for the 12 unbroken? Or do we break them? As you said, even if it was 15 or 16, you'd consider breaking them in half. If it was 8, you'd definitely go unbroken. So this is so this is when it comes down to you going, okay, well, am I going to be an also ran in the middle of the pack? If I was a top athlete, I'm going to be going these unbroken. So it's asking you the question. It's up to you to answer.
Would you like paste or like record your times on that and try and keep it consistent? Well, there's not much room for slowness in that anyway.
No.
I mean, normally once I see 9 rounds, I kind of think to myself, maybe I'll track my laps for this and see how consistent I am through the workout and really try and push, like stay consistent the first, 7 rounds and then really like consistent but unbroken perhaps, but then increase that pace towards the end. It's normally as soon as I see like a long workout like that, I kind of think about that straight away. So is that something you're looking for or not so much for this one today?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously there are certain sessions where I say you must record split time or lap time for each round and keep more within 20 seconds other than those last couple where you're allowed to go anaerobic. Just because I don't say that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. I would definitely do that with this one because even though you're probably not going to slow down on the Viper press, you're probably not going to slow down on the jump lunges, the urgency between sets and the transition time is what's going to start to increase. And just having a clock running can be really good for that accountability, just to go, if I have 3 seconds break, I'm
going to miss my...
and there's an immediate change there. Now, even though it's 9 rounds, this isn't a long one. You're talking sub 6 minutes definitely here. So, it's still pretty quick. But, that should be a good little burner to finish off the day on Tuesday.
Yep.
Let's have a look at Wednesday. So, fair bit of squatting on the Wednesday.
Yep.
We know that Thursday is your swim day, so the legs are unloaded considerably on the Thursday, so we can justify that.
Yep.
So, part A here, as you know, this is your trainable weakness session for the squat stuff. And again, opportunity here to work on what we talked about for the Tuesday in terms of your positioning. So at 0 minutes, you've got your jumping high bar back squats. Are you using bands for those or are you doing them without the bands?
I tend to not. I'm not going that heavy at the moment. I'm kind of in between like weights at the moment, just with my back under tension because I'm rebuilding back up percentage anyway.
Yep.
So and the thing is, we don't have a good setup here for like I have to drag over like the 30 kilo dumbbells to set up in like that. That's what I use to band off underneath the rack.
Yep.
So I almost like because it's very hard to set it up evenly that way. I kind of feel sometimes. I actually don't think it's the setup. I think it's probably uneven on my back, to be honest, because I'm uneven in one hip. But I feel like it pulls unevenly, like on one band. And the other thing is finding 2 bands that are in exactly the same condition as well. I find tricky. Because I feel different tension, but I do feel a difference when I still really concentrate on that speed aspect, and I will go lighter if I feel like I'm not moving quick enough. Like I really try and make that the focus of those speed squats normally, the jumping back.
Yep. Okay. So, I mean, you've listed off 3 or 4 reasons there why you're not doing them with the bands.
Yeah.
If they are genuine reasons that, no, I don't think it's better for me, that's okay. But just make sure you're asking yourself, just sort of say, okay, are they genuine reasons, or is it the fact that it takes me a couple of minutes to set up and there's a barrier to entry there? Because you will get some really good benefit if you can get that banded stuff done. I'm very keen for that increased resistance at the top. And we know we've been working hard on your extension, on the knee extension out of that power position in particular, on your clean and snatch. And yes, this will transfer really well. And I've seen people who struggle with that with the Olympic lifts because there's the added complexity. They go back and do a little bit more dynamic effort work from a powerlifting point of view and do get some good improvements. So
I'll have a think about it. And see whether I could just buy 2 bands and then always use them, and then it would keep the section the same.
So I understand if you feel like it's uneven and it's giving you a net loss, but if it's just this is a pain in the ass to set up, it's worth doing as much as anything else, because maybe other people have got the same attitude as you and they're neglecting that. It may just put you ahead of them by the 1 second that you need. Okay, part 2, obviously this is your tempo back squats, which are a really good one for you because of what we talked about with your squat position, because you get the time to think.
Correct,
Which is both a positive, because you get to adjust position and look at that ankle position and therefore your knee and therefore your torso position. And it's a negative because it really hurts. But
they're a fun one. Tempo.
So what I want you to do you use a timer on these? Do you count in your head? How do you do it?
Yeah, no, I have a metronome, so I just have it set up on my phone. The problem is it's 5 and 5, so that's why last time I sent you the video, I have a bit of a break at the top because I wait. So I'm 5 down, and it goes 1, 2, 3, then I drive up, and that's pretty quick. So then I'll maybe have a couple of extras, like maybe 1 second extra at the top.
Okay. So here's what I'd like you to do on those then. Is that an app that you use, or is it just a metronome?
It's like a music.
Like
it's
a musician would have.
So it's hard to change the tempo.
Yeah. Okay. So what I would do is I would use an app. I like Seconds is my preference. And basically what I have set up in Seconds is a timer that goes 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds. And it'll basically do that 5 times. And then I think it's a 2-minute, 5-second rest in between these.
You have it all set up perfectly.
It's all set up. Now, it's another example of how you being organized and putting a system in place, which takes a little bit of time to set up in the short term, that's then always there saved in your phone. So I would do that. It holds you accountable. It stops you having those extra couple of seconds at the top. And if we can do that, although the time under tension is the same, the time under tension is compressed into a shorter amount of total time.
Yeah, sounds good. I've got that app, so I use it for all the multiple AMRAP stuff. So I've got them all set up in there because it's a nightmare to try and do the maths on the fly.
So it's easy enough to do, and I mean you can do this whole session because this part A, this squat session, is running off a continuous clock. You can program that entire sort of 25 minutes there.
Yeah, and you just do it once and you're done.
Yep, you just hit start. The only difference, you'll see this one, so at 23 minutes, max unbroken back squats. At 80, max unbroken. At 60, max unbroken. At 40, so that's obviously 3 minutes there. The other variation of this session, as you know that I programmed for you, is when it's just 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So just bear in mind that there will be a slight difference if you're using it for all the squat sessions.
Yeah.
So that's basically, look, your old school drop sets or stripping.
Yeah.
And
so is there like so I always have that question with them, is there like a magic number? Like you kind of, depending on how you're feeling and what state your leg's in, they're obviously in a fatigue state once you get there.
Yep.
But I find like I can do a ton at 40 sometimes, like in the minute, like I'll get a ton of reps out just because, but it feels so heavy. 80 feels a nightmare, and then 60 is pretty bad. And then by the time you get to 40, you can go for quite, like I normally time cap that, and maybe the other ones I don't quite make the time cap because I'll go to technical failure
Yep.
before I make it there.
Yep. So that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
I can't give you a number in terms of what I would expect to see from you because there are so many differences in the sort of neuromuscular fatigue that people go through, but also their ability to recruit a lot of muscle fibers. So that's the neuromuscular efficiency where, are you a super strong athlete who can only do 2 reps at 90%, or are you not as fast twitch, not as strong, not as efficient at recruiting muscle units, and you can go all day at 90%?
Yeah,
but
definitely, probably.
Yeah.
I think I'm more towards the first one. I'm good for a couple of reps, and then
Yeah, agreed. And that's fine. Look, I mean, it's not that one is worse than the other, but
it's just the way you are. Yeah.
We know that because you have a like a leaning towards that way, we need to work on the other to even you out. Now, when you set this up, the way to do it would be to load to 40% of your max on the bar.
And I started doing that because
and then you can just strip them off.
I had too much time, so after that I made sure that the maths was always doable.
Exactly.
So I just pull 10 or 10 to 5 and load it unevenly as you need to, so that you can strip it. Yeah.
Look, I mean, in a perfect world, you have someone standing on each side of you, and that bar doesn't leave your back for the 3 minutes.
I'm glad that just have that little rest there.
Yeah.
I've done it one time like that where I had people in the gym and I was like, just strip. It's a good time.
They're full on, aren't they? Yeah. They're full on. Look, I mean, if you did nothing else in this training day other than that last 3 minutes, you will still leave feeling like, I'm going to get fit from that. So, plenty of benefits. Sorry?
Cardio or strength at the end. You're like, oh dear, I'm sweating too much for squats. Come on now.
Everything, yeah. Now they're tough, but just a good way to finish off those. I'll only program one of those for you every 18 sessions because they are pretty fun. Yep. On to part B there for the Wednesday. So an EMOM here, every minute for 12 minutes. One exercise each minute. So minute 1, squats, minute 2, row, minute 3, ring push-ups.
Yep.
Again, this is a big self-awareness play here. We've just started using some more EMOM type things, but similar to that one that we were talking about that you have this week, you need to know where you are. And if you finish it and you're miles off, it tells me that you're not in tune enough with what your capabilities are.
Yeah.
So let's really work on that. The bear hug squats, basically this is with the weight shifted forward. Obviously a front squat, you'd expect a more upright and vertical torso position than you would on a back squat, more than you would on a low bar back squat. This is taking that extreme even further. So my hope here is that with that bit of counterweight, you are going to be able to stay really upright on these.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before.
Are you like literal bear hug? So like arms horizontal like this?
Yes. Yeah. As opposed to under. So if I was to program like a dead ball zercher, that would be with elbows under it.
Okay.
A bear hug with them around. So it does just add a little bit of extra element to it. It will make it'll make it quite posterior chain and lower back heavy to maintain position.
Correct, yeah.
But it will also, because you're more upright, put a lot more onus on your quads. Now, you said your anterior chain has never failed you in a front squat because that's not the limiting factor.
Yeah.
So this is going to force you into that position. So again, from that motor control perspective, this is going to be quite useful for you.
Yeah. So now, like I said last time, I think I had dead balls over a pull-up bar. I think I sent you a message a couple of weeks ago. So obviously I've never done a 1 rep max dead ball hug squat. So, and only have a certain weight of dead balls here. So, do you just do a warm up and see what you can get? Because I can probably dead ball everything that's in here probably. Because we have only got, I think we have a 65, maybe a 70. But
okay. So a good way to do it, because you don't know what your max bear hug squat is. You would know what a front squat at 60 kilos feels like. At 60% feels like. So you could put 60% of your max front squat on a bar. you can do that and you can go, okay, that feels like a 7 out of 10 perceived rate of exertion. Yeah.
So similar
Similar
feeling.
rate of perceived exertion.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, that makes sense.
yeah, so obviously when I program the percentages for your multimodals to get a certain effect, even if it's dumbbells, it's not the percent of what you do with a barbell, it's the percent of what that movement is. So
yeah,
cool. And then the row is for meters, not calories. So because meters are a linear measure as opposed to calories, which are not, they're a measure of work. It should be easier for you to maintain a consistent pace here.
Yep.
So
you go.
You can sort of work your way backwards from, because a lot of people look at this in the context of, okay, well, there's this movement, there's this movement, there's this movement, and they'll look at each of them in isolation. But if you were to look at a 12-minute row, so if we were doing a 12-minute row for max distance, sort of work out how far you would be covering. I mean, if you're rowing a 7-minute 2K, you can sort of extrapolate from there, and that'll give you an idea as to how many meters you should be doing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I was going to go the other way because we do that 30-minute EMOM.
Yes. Yep.
Row.
Yep.
So I normally kind of 220-ish is what I kind of aim for there. So 220 while still on the rower, because you can get 220 and just let it tick over those last few. So I try to say to myself 220 while still pulling.
Good.
And then let it roll up from there. So it might get to 230.
Yep.
So I was thinking about that just before when I saw this day. So I should probably be able to go a little bit up there. Yeah. So maybe 240, 250 was kind of what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I would probably be going closer to the 250 for that. I mean, that's 2-minute pace. So
because then that's 0 time for transition though, isn't it?
It is. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's probably going to be about right for you. Then the ring push-ups, they will deteriorate quickly, more so even than a standard push-up.
Yeah.
What I would like to see on those, so perfect world, your feet and hands are at a very similar heights. Now you can either set the rings like you would for ring dips and put your feet on a 30-inch box, or you can set the rings that far off the ground and have your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
What I would like to see with this, if you're setting just off the ground, that's good because then you can go chest to ground as the standard. At the top, I'd like to see that turn out of the rings.
Yep.
So you're not riding straps.
Thing with this, also like straps just outside shoulder width, because if you have them real narrow, you can dirty roll them in, if that makes sense.
So I want them to be, do you know what a cubit is as a unit of measurement? Does that, so go with that from the elbow, to the fingertips. Just go with that pretty much for any ring stuff you're doing.
Beautiful.
Closing point on this one, and this is, I'll probably make a video on this in its own right, this concept, but a lot of people, I think, use EMOMs because they're a little easier to do, and it's a good way to get a decent amount of volume, but it's not too intimidating. I don't want that to be the case. So what I want you to do, and the way I want you to think about this, let's say, for example, that you're doing 12 squats, 250-meter row, and 15 ring push-ups, for example. What I want you to do, because obviously we're doing this 4 cycles through, ask yourself, okay, if this multimodal, if this session was 4 rounds of the squats, the 250-meter row, and the 15 push-ups, if that was 4 rounds for time, would I be doing this a lot quicker than 12 minutes? If the answer is yes, your reps aren't high enough.
Okay. So it's still working as close to that wall, as you like to say, as possible.
Yes, exactly.
And what, is this mainly with so with your 30-minute EMOMs, is that a similar thing that you should be thinking about, or is that a change just because it's a longer time domain?
That changes there, So they are intentionally a little bit lower, so that's more aerobic threshold, not as much anaerobic threshold.
Yeah, so, whereas this one, we're looking at this.
Yeah, so you're still going to be in a fair bit of discomfort by the end of 30 minutes there, but the intent is there should always be that 10-minute rest. Now, look, in a perfect world here, on this one, over 12 minutes, you have 2 seconds rest after each one, and you're able to hold that. So that's perfect, and that means you've got good self-awareness and a good ability to pace, and then that would transfer beautifully over into if this were 4 rounds for time of that same rep scheme.
Yeah.
But that's the big question. So ask yourself before, then ask yourself at the end. If I was doing
Yeah.
this not EMOM and just for time, would I smash the 12 minutes? If so, scale up.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Sounds good.
Cool.
I'll think about that.
Yep. The Thursday swim. So 5 200s. So a good amount of volume in this. This is,
Yep.
in terms of all the swim sessions, the one with the most amount of continuous swimming, obviously with the 200s.
Yeah.
Stroke count and pacing, very important on this one. There's a decent amount of rest.
Yeah.
Make sure you try and maintain the stroke count over all 5 200s that you have in the first 50 or 100 meters, because anyone can jump in, and that first 50 meters always feels like a dream. Like it just feels
really does.
amazing. And then you're rudely awoken from said dream and it becomes pretty uncomfortable. So keep that stroke count. Keep it there. A really good sort of way to do this per 50 is equate stroke count to time and look at the efficiency. I mean, are you going 50 strokes per 50 meters at 50 seconds if you could do 40 strokes in... So just have a play around with those.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want you working hard. This is recovery, but swimming doesn't take a lot to recover from in the long term. I mean, you feel pretty tired and fatigued straight after.
Yeah. Yep.
But in the long term, it's not too bad. So you can push this and not have a negative effect, even though this is like that midweek deload that we talk about.
Yeah, I feel like I'm working hard whenever I get in that pool. I feel like I'm probably a little bit inefficient in there, but I'm getting there. It's just when it's just like anything, like when you're coaching new people at the gym, as you know, you see them just like, oh, they're struggling quite a lot with this, but it's just because they're so inefficient with like breathing even. And that's how I'm good. I can feel it. Like, I feel everything's tight, elbows in a good position, keeping that elbow high, past the hips, good hip. Like, because I've been doing, and I've listened to some of your videos on technique and stuff, and try and think about it. But as soon as I'm, past, it's good now that summer's open, so we've got a nice big 50-meter pool,
good,
which is nicer for swimming laps. So I've been doing 25s, and after that third turn, my problem is actually like breathing. Like I can tumble turn okay, but I find I'm so fatigued after I've tumble turn because I kind of might miss a stroke, I might miss a breath, and then I'm like, oh no, and then I get tired. But I feel like practicing the skill in the workout per se is important, because
it is.
You're gonna get there any day. And then sometimes we do have the work on a tumble turn as a skill in the session anyway. So
I definitely want you tumble turning. A couple of comments on that. If the breathing is an issue, make sure that you're never holding your breath as you swim.
Yeah.
So
no, just when I tumble turn, like I feel like I might, like I'm thinking about my turn, so I'm like, oh shit, which arm am I breathing on? Then I might miss a breath before I tumble turn. But I feel like it'll actually be better on a 50-meter pool.
Yeah,
because
there's very little where you're forced to restrict breathing in your training. So there's very little hypoxic work ordinarily. Swimming has been shown, or any water-based sports, they're the only sports that have been shown to change lung volume. So because you're slightly underwater, even though you're only slightly underwater, that little bit of pressure, if you swim enough, it's the only sport in the research in any of the science that has actually been shown to increase lung volume. Everything else improves the efficiency. This actually increases it. But just make sure you're never holding your breath. If your head's underwater or if you're streamlining, you're at least blowing off that carbon dioxide. Because the presence of carbon dioxide is the cue to breathe, not the absence of oxygen. So if you're blowing that off in the short term, it should work well for you. So you've said the efficiency there is the big piece. You will measure that through stroke rate.
Yeah, and I can imagine that like the first 50 meters, because I got the little Garmin watch, so it tells you like your SWALP rating or whatever, so it shows you your strokes per minute and how efficient it is to the time, and I can imagine it. But especially something that long, like if I'm doing even 50 meters, I can maintain pretty nicely. I can turn, kick off the wall, surface again, and then settle into a rhythm. But 50 meters is about the limit to my efficiency in a smaller pool anyway, when I'm pushing that pace a little bit more. So it'd be interesting to see. Probably just like like a CrossFit workout, if you pace correctly from the start, maybe I'm coming out a little bit too hot.
Yeah, I think so. It's exactly the same pacing principles and strategies that we talk about with anything else. Let's just apply them.
Yeah.
Will your watch record each 200 independently and stroke rates and stuff?
Let me have a look at my last swim. I'll have a quick check. I'm not sure. I haven't played around with it.
Okay. So have a play around with it and then send those through to me. If it doesn't, I'd be keen for you to record stroke counts, even if you just count over the 200 meters, and we'll just see how first compares to fifth.
Yeah.
So because you obviously can't really write at the side of the pool, I'd suggest either just getting a laminated sheet of paper.
Yep.
And you can get, it's called a Chinograph pencil, and it's a pencil that can write in waterproof. You can just get them from an art shop.
Yep.
And either just write on like a piece of Perspex or on a laminated sheet, just so you can record it as you go. I think that'll be quite useful for you.
No, I think it would do it. It just records the whole session, but you can see it's going to be bad. But there's some rests. Oh, where's the camera?
Yeah. Okay.
So it records your rests, which would be the no work, and then it shows. So you can see my stroke rate. That doesn't. Oh no, yeah. So it's better early, and then it drops off a little bit towards the end there. So looks like I'd be able to work it out and send it through to you.
Yeah, if you can do that, that would be good, because I think that's pretty low hanging fruit there.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's have a look at Friday. So pretty standard, the part A. Again, you know the structure for the powerlifting session. Speed strict press this time. Again, make sure you're resetting at the bottom. The strict press, we want to start from zero velocity with no elastic energy there, because that's how you would do a strict press if you were testing a max.
Correct. Yeah.
Then the deadlifts and high bar back squats. Pretty self-explanatory there. Part B. So I'm putting in a little bit of partner and team stuff just every now and then now for you to have a bit of a play with, because I know it keeps it fresh. It's good fun.
Yep.
So very simple, this one. Just 4 rounds for time. Double kettlebell snatch.
Yep.
So that's starting from the swing, not starting from the ground.
Yep.
40% max. So just predict what 40% of your max double kettlebell snatch would be. Push-ups and knees to elbows. So very little overlap in muscle recruitment patterns between these 3 movements.
Yep.
So your double kettlebell snatch, a little bit of grip requirement there, as you will have on the knees to elbows. So that's the only overlap. So just bear in mind that once your grip is gone, it's not going to come back inside this session.
So would you if you're talking double kettlebell snatch, could you re-rack and then pop off your shoulders into the next swing, or do you prefer to train the grip and work on that full, you know what I mean?
On this, I think your grip is going to be trained enough without having to do extra. Okay. So, I mean, you see a lot of people who do weak point or accessory work for their grip. I am of the belief that so much of what we do is grip dominant that unless it is really a considerable limiting factor that's stopping you working anything else in your training, I don't think you have to train your grip per se. So that could be a good strategy, and just making sure that you're not tight on that kettlebell unless you really need to. Obviously overhead, the wrist should be nice and neutral. It should be nice and relaxed. It shouldn't be here with that loaded. So that would be my only consideration from a strategy point of view. And the recommendation there would be break early.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd rather you break the first round than the last round.
Yeah, I'd never done them before, and I think you did program like a month ago. They were an absolute nightmare. And I only did them at 20 kilos last time I did it. Same percentage, I think, and I was like, because I saw at one of the comps, I think they did some intermediate boys doing 24s, and I was like, it's less reps, so it wasn't too bad. But I was like, whoa,
it's heavy.
It's heavy weight. I might struggle with that. So
I would probably go no more than 16 on these for you. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's right.
yeah. But that means that they're going to have to be pretty quick, hey?
Yeah.
So there's nothing here that's overly difficult. The push-ups are pretty standard. Again, it depends on who you're doing it with as well, but you can break those into short sets. You don't lose a lot of time. I mean, if you put down the kettlebells, you're almost guaranteed it's going to be 5 seconds before you pick those back up, reinitiate the swing.
Swinging. Yeah.
So if it was a choice between breaking the snatches more or breaking the push-ups more, the choice would be to break the push-ups more because there's less time lost.
Easiest.
Yeah. And then those knees to elbows, very keen on these for them to be knees to elbows, not knees to triceps.
Knees to triceps is everyone's favorite though, Dan. What are you doing?
I know, exactly. So again, like we talked about with the ring rows before, a lot of people will scale toes to bar to knees to elbows. I find them a lot tougher. So if you're doing them well, there's much more lat requirement, so much more requirement to go through shoulder extension. It's a really good to progress to sort of bent arm to straight arm strength with with stuff like levers. So a good progression towards a front lever. So just make sure it's the point of the knee to the point of the elbow on those, and they're really beneficial. They're similar enough to toes to bar that they will benefit them. They're different enough to toes to bar that they're worth doing in their own right.
I like it.
Friday, part C, pretty standard complete relative stamina session here.
So that goes the work.
Again, we talk about awareness a lot and have talked about awareness a lot for this week. This is awareness of when you can go unbroken. So every time you break a set, there's a minute time penalty. Now, what that tells you is it's better for you to rest for 55 seconds and not break than it is to go straight into it and break. So there's a big strategy play here.
It's just that damn 16 push-ups every time, Dan.
It gets you. So
first few times, I think I had maybe one break in the pull-ups. Obviously, I've been with you for a little while, so I think it was like the push-ups and stuff. Obviously, got a bit stronger, and handstand push-ups used to be a bit of a weakness, but we've been hammering them pretty hard. So now, at the last 2 times, it's been, I'm pretty sure, just like the 16 push-ups, and I can't remember maybe the 20 as well, or maybe it's just one break in the 20. But everything else feels all right, and you get to those push-ups, and it's tough. They get real bad because you say you can't kip, so it's everything else you can kip, can't you? So.
Yep. So, I mean, as you know, we have a couple of variations on this theme. Yeah. This is pull-ups starting high. And going low, pressing, starting low and getting high. As you'll know, we have the opposite, which also I program for you. And then we have them both going down and then both going up. So this is the toughest when it comes to finishing that last 2 sets of pull-ups. So, it gets tough. But just remember, I'd rather you rest 55 seconds and go unbroken than go straight into it.
It's so sad because I look at my time and I look like I'm traveling well because I'm I know what my last time was and I'm like, it's looking like a good day. And then you get to those push-ups and you're just like, and then you feel it coming and you're like, 12's pretty tough. And then you're like, I'll have a good rest. But then it comes, you might be better off doing 8 and then having a little rest and taking the time minute. So there's the strategy that way as well.
It's tricky.
So I get to that stage, I know I could wait a minute 50 and I'm still going to fail. So, you know what I mean? So
look, I mean, we've had guys finish this in sub 5 minutes.
I bet.
And that's just because they have the ability, they have the awareness that they have the ability. And there are no time penalties and it's tough. I mean, on that last set of push-ups, you have to roll a dice. It's not easy. And there's a lot of mental toughness there as well because it's very rare that you would fail because you can, hold in a good strong body position. You can hold for a couple of seconds
and wait there.
There's a little bit of regeneration. So they're tough, but they're very effective at what they're trying to do. So, all right, Saturday, final day. So team 1 for part A here for you. This is, as you know, we've got the heavy barbell metcons, which is that heavy barbell cycling, which we normally average about 75%. This is what I would call a very heavy barbell metcon, so 85% here. This is heavy.
Real heavy.
These are real heavy. So I want you doing this in a team of 3.
Yep.
You're probably going to use up all the bars and weights in the gym, but that's fine.
That's right.
15-minute AMRAP. You will do 3 deadlifts at 85% max. Person B will, person C will.
Yep.
You will do 3 front squats, then B, then C. You will do the 3 hang power clean and jerk, then B, then C. Then you do 2 of each. They do 2. You do 1, etc. So again, low reps, but they need to be low because it is very heavy.
Yeah, because you'll be taxed. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, because of the weight here, you're almost, if you were to do this on your own, because this I programmed for you as a solo version as well.
Yeah.
If you were to do this on your own, you may not actually go that much faster than doing it in a 3 because of the amount of rest you would be required to have.
Yeah.
So if anything, this will just do a good job of holding you accountable to it and saying, all right, my 2 mates have gone. I need to step up and do this now. So it'll just push you through, and it'll also encourage some good movement speed as well with these.
Yeah. Keep it moving along. Yeah, that's a nasty one.
My hope would be for you to go unbroken on this.
Okay.
On everything would be good. So obviously we never bounce deadlifts in the powerlifting when we're looking to build strength. But the idea here is to do a lot of work in a short amount of time. So this is when you can do that and build that skill.
Yep.
The front squats, I'd like to see you go unbroken. Those hang power clean and jerk. If this was a power clean and jerk, you could make a strong argument for dropping each one.
Bloody hangs.
But because it's from the hang, it's a bit of a spanner in the works. And it makes it not so simple a choice. You can still make an argument, which you probably couldn't for a deadlift, to drop, do a quick deadlift and go. You could probably still make an argument for that, but something to weigh up.
Yep. Yeah, that one's nasty.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 5 minutes of work per person over the whole 15 minutes. So
Yeah. No, it won't. It will be good. Yeah.
I'd be happy for you to roll a dice and go for it and actually risk failing. Like say, okay, I'm going to try this from the start. Towards the end, it didn't work. Okay, that's all right. Lesson learned. I know where I'm at with this.
Yeah. So the funny thing is I'm probably most worried about the front squats out of any of that going unbroken. Maybe. Depends on 85. Yeah, so that'll be heavy for me.
Yeah. But it's because of those 3, the front squats are most uncomfortable in terms of compressing your torso. I mean, a deadlift, it's going to feel super heavy at 85%, but there's something about a front squat, that compression in the front rack, it really limits your breathing. So of the 3, it's probably the most intimidating. So I know where you're coming from there. All right, part B. Final little piece for the week. 7-minute AMRAP, 9 GHD sit-ups, 12 box jumps with straight leg landing. I'll explain that to you in a moment. And then 12 double kettlebell bench press. Again, nothing super heavy here. Nothing's really going to slow you down. Then that 2-minute break and 5 minutes to find a max squat clean. So you're obviously going to be pre-fatigued from part A. But the squat clean of the 3 movements in this little triplet, there is nothing there that's going to directly impact the squat clean. Obviously, there's a systemic fatigue and there's this accumulation of the acid, the hydrogen ions in your body. So the 2-minute rest should be nice and active there. Have the weight preloaded for your first one. But there shouldn't be too much direct correlation between muscle activation patterns other than the part A.
The front squat,
So if we look at the balance of movements here, obviously that blood shunting that I'm big on in these multimodal conditioning pieces. The GHD sit-up is very much a hip flexion and a trunk flexion. The box jump's very much a hip extension, so no overlap there. And then a press on that kettlebell bench press. So really you should be able to blast through that pretty quickly, especially considering one of your 3 movements is with you lying down, which makes it very easy for your heart and lungs to oxygenate your body. So anytime you see a bench press in a conditioning piece, if you were thinking of starting at a 7 out of 10, increase that to an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. For the whole session,
For the whole thing, because you will be able to recover.
Because you're lying down.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that was a double kettlebell push press instead of bench. it really changes it, hey? So
yeah.
The GHD sit-up, self-explanatory. The box jumps with straight leg landing. A lot of people use box jumps and they claim that it's a plyometric thing.
Yeah.
But it's really just a test of how quickly can they pull their knees up into a tuck position. So it becomes almost analogous to a movement like a tall clean, where it's just about how fast can I tuck and drop as opposed to how well can I jump. Now, obviously, you have to have a good jump as well. But with these, a straight leg landing, you are forced to make 100% of that 20-inch displacement come from hip extension and knee extension.
Oh, yeah, so you can't land this off. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So it's literally locked legs on the landing. Now, there's not going to be a big impact there because you're only going to be clearing the box by a couple of centimeters. So it's only like you're dropping a couple of centimeters. So really effective way of working on that jumping mechanics. Not so much a landing mechanics, obviously, but I think you'll find those quite beneficial and quite different.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I saw them when you emailed that through just before. I was like, what are they? Sounds fun.
Yeah. So take a bit of time warming up. 20-inch will be challenging. You may even have to go a little less depending on how it looks. But, I mean, you're tall. It should be okay for you.
Yeah.
Yep. And then on those double kettlebell bench, again, like we talked about with those knees to elbows as opposed to toes to bar, it's close enough to bench press that it's going to benefit it. It's far enough away from bench press that it gives you a broad adaptability.
Yeah, I love some unilateral work on there. It's always good to get them working, especially.
And look, I mean,
don't do it.
Yeah. All of your powerlifting, your Olympic lifting, your heavy, your moderate barbell Metcon conditioning sessions, it's all barbell stuff. So we take the opportunity wherever we can to get a little freaky with these multimodals and and mix it up there. Cool.
Yep.
Big week of training. Good.